Okay, here with another movie review coming at you. Tonight we start off with a little more of a drama and potentially a Academy Award nominee based on the approach. It's called Life Itself, with a star-studded cast to hopefully bring what looks to be a very intense drama to life. Yours truly goes back into the theater to give you his thoughts, his words, and perhaps the 411 on whether or not this should be a movie you go and see in the theaters. Now, as always, give you the kind of breakdown for those of you who are new, give you the premise of the movie, the Phase 1 review, which is your quick summary, and then the Phase 2 component, which is the details for those that are interested. As always, Robbie K here, appreciating you watching. Let's get started. Life Itself is essentially advertised as a means of crossing through time through multiple generations, telling a story that somehow ties together and brings together potentially all sorts of tales that will help answer a question about life itself, no pun intended. It seems to be an emotional, heartfelt movie where the connections can go deep and the lessons even deeper. What's in store? Well, that's what we got in store. That's what I have to try to tell you without spoiling anything. So let's get going. In terms of Stage 1, this is definitely for the hardcore drama fans. A thought-provoker that really stimulates emotions, brings about it with a decent set of acting, and a very piecemeal tale that will come together in the end, but only if you can manage to sit through it. It's a very intense, emotional, dynamic movie with, much like life itself, having numbers of twists. So get ready, because it's going to throw a whirl for you. In regards to everything else, though, there are some qualities about it that are not going to be quite as much fun as some of the other dramas you've seen. A story that's a little more realistic than fantasy, hard-hitting realism that's going to drive you a little further than maybe you want to. And in terms of me, a pace that's not the most audience-friendly, especially if you like the flashy and the dashy. Outside of that, though, solid movie in terms of a number of components which you can stick around with. But if you're really one for drama, really one for probably some tear-jerking moments that are realistic and touching, this is the movie for you. But otherwise, you're going to need to avoid it if you can't handle the heavy, hard-handed, emotional stuff of what life can deal with you. As well as if you're not looking for a pace or missing that movie action. But other than that, should be okay. What's the score? In terms of its category of drama, I'd say, which is really tough, I'm going to give it an overall probably 6.5, to be honest, with the movie being probably about a 5 to be there. Want to know why a little more in detail? That's where Phase 2 comes in. But otherwise, this is Robbie K. Thanking you very much for your small time to it. Let's head on to Phase 2, though, for those who like it. Now, in terms of the likes, the movie has a lot of character and class to it, so I'm going to have to be very careful as to how I share the likes. But I promise I'll do my best not to spoil anything for you. In regards to the movie of what I like best about it, it comes from the fact that the acting is probably the #1 thing about this movie. The cast really takes very realistic, very dynamic movie roles and essentially brings them to life. You feel the emotion, you feel the hurt, you feel everything in here, crafting very realistic characters that you may grasp onto or may not. It's kind of the point of the movie. It's a very deep, star-studded thing that each character seems pertinent to the tale and really brings about with it a new aspect of life you might not have seen. So kudos to that, because that's kind of what this movie was built on, are the characters, and they brought those characters to life. You know, a second component of it is, if you like realism, and I do appreciate some realism to it, the movie's got you covered on that again. A bravo display of kind of facing life itself, again, sorry with the pun, in the numerous dynamics, and making sure and giving him kudos for the fact that they took some steps and addressed some things that a lot of people don't have the guts to really kind of hit you without some other kind of story to sell it, the popcorn munching kind, because this movie did that. It faced real life drama components that many people try to choose to face away. So this is kind of a good training for something that you know at the end is just a story, but at the same time could definitely be real. The twists are great. in regards to it, and more so in terms of how everything kind of mixes together and connects. A very good, clever way that's like, I think, what Valentine's Day was going for, but didn't quite accomplish the goal. So, you know, bravo on that in terms of being able to tell and connect these stories in a very deep manner that wasn't cheesy, corny, or a stretch of the imagination. It really brought with it some tying roles and felt very much like the narrative that was being told, including a very funny opening, to which I'll have to say I like. It was a good portrayal, and while it doesn't seem to fit, as you get farther into the movie, you start seeing why the hilarity ensues. So again, bravo on kind of bringing that laugh and bringing a good fitting form to it. And the artistic component of it is fantastic, from the makeup and prosthetics to the culture to the setting. I mean, it's all emphasized in probably a fine display of artistic makeup that may not be flashy or out of this world creative, but certainly enough to emphasize exactly what they were going for. So bravo to the costumes, wardrobes, and everything that added that extra ounce of energy to the characters that people likely need. Beautifully done in those aspects. So the artistic components of this movie are definitely its strongest selling points. But here's where the dislikes come in. First of all, it is slow. And I'm not being mean about it, but you guys know, if you've seen my reviews, I prefer a moving pace. And this movie just didn't do it for me. By the time Chapter 3 hit in and we had kind of taken the next phase of the movie, I had lost the energy. Could be from a long day at work, could be from a long week, but nevertheless, this is a movie that, even though it's beautifully done, it does not have energy behind it. So don't go see it if you're tired, because you may be fighting sleep. In addition, it's a movie that is really needing some help and kind of sprucing it up, because another part of this movie is, it's depressing as heck. And again, if you are one that wants lighthearted, if you want a fun adventure with a little bit of sad points to kind of mix things up, this isn't the movie for you. The realistic display, the approach to a lot of stuff, it was okay, just not my favorite kind of component with it when it came to reviewing this movie. It's super depressing, and that's got to be my strongest dislike, is because you come out of here, and had it not been for a couple of things that they did, it might have been one of the first movies I would have walked out on, just because of how bummed it made me feel. Again, as I told you in the Phase 1, if you're still sticking around, this is not a movie for the lighthearted, and not a movie for those that can't handle some of the more dismal parts that sometimes come with living. So, you know, you got to be ready for that, because it's going to be a big, big phase of it. In regards to it, you know, the ending message, I guess I should have put it a like, so bravo to that, but it took a while to get there. And it's just a story that could have probably been told in a book, and you would have gotten the same things out. I've read plenty of books with a similar feel to it, and that's what this movie probably could have gone for. I guess the other thing that wasn't my favorite kind of dislike, but I can't say it's the biggest dislike, it's one of those I'm still milling over. The truth is that the presentation is semi-convoluted. At first, you're trying to figure out and piecemeal and keep up with the trippy kind of approach that it takes. And as the story starts to unfold and things start to take a unique perspective and they try to do these different styles, as unique as it is of telling them, at the same time, it makes for a very complicated tale that if you don't stay till the end, you may end up wanting to leave because you're just tired of the convolutedness, or maybe you're just going to miss the message that's behind it. Nevertheless, I'm not saying that it's a bad approach. I'm just saying that the dislike is that until the tangles finally undo themselves, it's going to not be accepted by a lot of people, from the jumping as well as the very ambiguous nature. Nevertheless, there's a couple of other things that I could talk about, but let's wrap this up because it's getting long. Life Itself is definitely one of those more artistic and realistic dramas that people who love to sob, cry, and put emotions into it, whether they be happy tears at the happy moments or sad moments, are going to effectively find this movie to be beautiful if you like artistic components to it. It's Very well done. It's one of the more realistic approaches to filmmaking I've seen in a while. And it brings with it very important lessons that I think sometimes people need to see. But at the same time, if you're going there and you want to escape the reality of life, this isn't the movie for you. You have to be ready because it has got a number of ups and downs in it. And it can teach you or it can breach you, because when that happens and you are super depressed, you may just be ready to walk out of it. But if you hold on and appreciate the beauty and the artistic, you may find one of your favorite movies of the year, even though it wasn't one of mine. Still give you the scores, like I said, 6.5 and 5. But overall, not too bad. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. There will be at least 1, if not 2 more tomorrow. Maybe even 3 if I can find the time to do it. But in the meantime, thank you very much for supporting it. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. And more importantly, thanks for going to the movies. This is Robbie K signing off, asking for likes, shares, spreading, and whatever I can to help make this better. I know I'm not nearly as good as half of the other guys that we've got out there who have inspired me to try this, as well as my friends. But I appreciate you listening to it. And as always, there will be a written one tonight if you hate the sound of my voice or want a little more concise. Have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow. Bye.